It is common, especially during times of crisis or change, to feel an indescribable emptiness. This feeling of disconnection, of being out of sync with the world and even with ourselves, is something many people experience. Life seems to lose its spark, as if our actions and routines have become mere automatic movements, stripped of the soul and purpose they once held. No matter how much we try to fill this emptiness with relationships, professional achievements, or activities, something still seems missing, a greater sense, a connection to something deeper and essential. The feeling of being disconnected can be seen as a reflection of an incomplete search for our own essence. Many of us grow up believing that life's meaning lies outside ourselves, in what we achieve or accumulate, but eventually, these external goals cease to satisfy, and the internal discomfort reappears. We then find ourselves face to face with a discomfort we can't quite name, but that feels profoundly real. This emptiness is the call of our psyche or soul to reconnect with what lies beyond the surface, what Jung called the collective unconscious. If we look at human history, we'll notice that this longing for meaning isn't unique to our time. Since ancient times, humanity has sought answers to questions that are bigger than ourselves. What is my purpose? Why am I here? Is there something beyond what I can see? These are timeless questions that seem to be inscribed in the core of human existence. Philosophers, mystics, and thinkers have dedicated their entire lives to seeking these answers, as understanding our connection to the whole is essential for a sense of fulfillment. Today, what we call a crisis of purpose is merely the modern expression of an ancient question. We live in a time where the answers that were once found in spiritual traditions or communities are becoming lost amid individualism and the fast pace of modern life. This disconnect between who we are and the world we live in is one of the main causes of the emptiness many people experience. We feel not only disconnected from others but from something larger that could give meaning to everything, and this is precisely what the collective unconscious and Hermetic laws seek to restore. At this point, it's important to recognize that this feeling of emptiness cannot be resolved simply by adding something new to our lives, like a hobby, a relationship, or even a new goal. The feeling of disconnection comes from a deeper level of our psyche, and as long as we try to fill this void with external solutions, it will persist. This is an invitation to true introspection, to look within and ask ourselves, what is really missing in my life? Here, many confront an essential truth. We aren't disconnected from the world or from something concrete, but from a part of ourselves. Carl Jung described this process as a journey into the unconscious, where images, archetypes, and universal symbols that shape human experience are stored. When we ignore this inner connection, the void grows, signaling that it's time to explore what our soul is trying to communicate. This moment of discomfort, although painful, is also the starting point for something transformative. Feeling disconnected is a call to begin a journey of self-discovery. This is where the concept of the collective unconscious becomes relevant. If we look within with courage, we start to see that what we experience is not an isolated pain. In reality, we are participating in an experience common to all human beings, connected by a deep layer of shared consciousness. Jung described the collective unconscious as an inexhaustible source of symbols, memories, and universal archetypes that link each person to an invisible network of experiences. These archetypes, such as the hero, the shadow, the great mother, and the wise old man, exist within each of us and help us understand our role in existence. However, when we distance ourselves from these internal forces, we lose access to this shared wisdom and start to live in a fragmented way, disconnected not only from the world but also from our own purpose. The feeling of emptiness, then, is not a failure but an invitation, an opportunity to explore a dimension of ourselves that we may not yet know. If we ignore this call, we risk continuing to repeat the same patterns, always trying to fill a need that seems infinite. But if we embrace this search for meaning as something valid and worthy, it can guide us toward a more connected and meaningful life. If this feeling of emptiness and disconnection resonates with you, and if you wish to better understand the origin of these feelings, I invite you to explore our ebook Alchemy and Archetypes, Exploring Inner Transformation Through Jungian Psychology. Inside, you will find guidance and practical exercises to help access the collective unconscious and uncover a deeper purpose. Check the pinned comment for more details. Behind many of the emotional challenges and repetitive patterns we face, there lies a hidden dimension of our psyche that Carl Jung called the collective unconscious. Unlike the personal unconscious, where we store individual memories and experiences, the collective unconscious is a deeper layer shared by all humanity. It contains images, symbols, and universal patterns that Jung called archetypes, which influence our lives on levels we are often unaware of. These archetypes, the hero, the shadow, the wise old man, the great mother, among others, represent universal aspects of human experience and shape how we think, feel, and act. They are like invisible forces residing in our unconscious, guiding our perception of reality and manifesting in dreams, fantasies, myths, and even our daily choices. When we ignore or fail to integrate these elements of our psyche, they can become sources of pain and blockage, repeating patterns that seem beyond our control. How often do we find ourselves in situations where we repeat the same mistakes or choose paths that, in hindsight, seemed destined to fail? For Jung, this often happens because we are trapped in archetypal patterns we cannot see. These archetypes have a power of their own and can unconsciously draw us into familiar scenarios, even if they are harmful. For example, the archetype of the shadow represents the aspects of ourselves that we repress or reject, our weaknesses, fears, and instincts that we avoid facing. If we don't recognize the shadow within us, we risk projecting it onto others, seeing in them what we deny in ourselves. This mechanism can create conflicts and trap us in exhausting relationships or situations, preventing us from growing. The shadow, then, acts as a force that, when ignored, fuels our problems and keeps us in destructive cycles. Archetypes, however, are not merely sources of problems. They also contain deep, universal wisdom. Each archetype has an essential function, as they reflect parts of human experience that, when integrated, bring a greater understanding of ourselves and the world. The hero archetype, for instance, drives us to seek growth and confront challenges. Even when we fall, it encourages us to rise again, to move forward in search of something more meaningful. But if these archetypes are universal and collective, they also carry the accumulated pain and suffering of humanity's history. The collective unconscious holds, for example, memories of traumatic experiences lived by our ancestors, times of war, persecution, and loss. These memories aren't in our conscious awareness, but they may manifest as feelings of fear, insecurity, or resistance that seem to have no apparent cause. In other words, our personal pain is often an expression of a greater, collective pain that connects us to something beyond the individual. This shared pain, however, offers an opportunity for healing and reconnection with ourselves. When we allow ourselves to recognize that these repetitive patterns and internal conflicts are part of a universal experience, we begin to develop a more compassionate view of our struggles. Rather than judging ourselves for repeated mistakes or seemingly unexplainable reactions, we can understand that they are natural parts of the human experience, deeply intertwined with the symbols and archetypes we all share. Bringing this awareness into our lives engages us in what Jung called the individuation process, a path of self-knowledge and integration of all aspects of our psyche. Recognizing and integrating these archetypes, especially challenging aspects like the shadow, allows us to break destructive cycles and move toward a more fulfilling and balanced life. Understanding the collective unconscious helps us see that our personal challenges are, in many ways, manifestations of archetypal forces shared by everyone. By accepting this connection, we take an important first step toward healing and breaking limiting patterns. Rather than viewing our repetitive behaviors as personal failures, we can interpret them as opportunities for growth and learning. This new perspective empowers us to initiate a profound inner transformation, leading us toward a more conscious and integrated life. At some point, you may have noticed that certain challenges seem to repeat in your life. Perhaps you always attract people who stir up the same conflicts, or feel that, no matter how hard you try, the same mistakes keep happening. This type of situation can be frustrating, even discouraging, but there's a way to interpret it: the Hermetic laws. These ancient laws offer a framework for understanding the connections between our internal patterns and the external world, revealing how the experiences we go through reflect forces far beyond us, yet paradoxically, also part of who we are. The Hermetic laws, originating from teachings attributed to Hermes Trismegistus, explain that the universe operates according to principles that connect the microcosm and the macrocosm, in other words, our inner world and external reality. By understanding these laws, particularly the law of correspondence and the law of unity, we can begin to decode our patterns and unlock new possibilities in our lives. The law of correspondence teaches us that what occurs within us reflects what happens outside, and vice versa. This means that our external reality often mirrors the internal states of our psyche, both conscious and unconscious. In practical terms, this law suggests that the conflicts, challenges, and even successes we experience are reflections of internal processes that are sometimes hidden within the collective unconscious. Imagine, for example, someone who repeatedly experiences relationships where they feel neglected or rejected. They may wonder, why does this always happen to me? The law of correspondence suggests that rather than focusing solely on the behavior of others, it's helpful to examine whether there is an archetype or belief about rejection within, often rooted in the unconscious. Perhaps, out of fear of rejection, this person adopts defensive or self-sabotaging behaviors that ultimately push others away. This internal pattern, when unrecognized, continues to manifest externally. By becoming aware of this reflection, the person can begin the work of transformation and gradually observe changes in the quality of their relationship. Another common example is financial blockage. Many people experience recurring difficulties with money, feeling that no matter how hard they try, they can never attain stability. According to the law of correspondence, this could be a reflection of internal beliefs of lack or unworthiness, perhaps inherited from the collective unconscious, which associates money with negative concepts like greed or corruption. By recognizing these internal patterns, the person can work on rewriting these beliefs, unlocking new opportunities in the outer world. The law of unity states that we are all interconnected and that nothing exists in complete isolation. This principle echoes Jung's idea of the collective unconscious, where the human psyche is interconnected by shared archetypes and experiences. Thus, the pain and patterns we face aren't just individual problems but expressions of a shared reality. For example, when we feel fear or loneliness, this experience often reflects a collective pain, a feeling that many around the world share, especially in times of change and uncertainty. Understanding that we're not alone in our struggles helps lighten the weight of these feelings. We can see ourselves as part of a greater whole, where each of us carries and processes parts of a pain that is, at its core, collective. Through the law of unity, we are invited to see ourselves as part of a vast network of human experiences and emotions. This understanding can be transformative, as it brings forth empathy and connection. When we recognize that our actions and emotions influence and are influenced by others, we find greater meaning in healing our own patterns and traumas. Every step we take toward personal wholeness directly or indirectly contributes to the balance of the whole. Applying these laws in daily life is essentially a process of observation and reflection. When we face a recurring challenge, the law of correspondence invites us to ask, what within me is reflected in this situation? What patterns, archetypes, or beliefs are shaping this experience? This helps shift the focus from the external to the internal, revealing unconscious aspects that need to be worked through. For instance, if someone consistently feels inferior or inhibited when speaking in public, it may be helpful to investigate whether there is a small self or rejected self archetype within their collective unconscious influencing this feeling. Often, these internal forces are fragments of ancestral pain, historical traumas, inherited fears, or patterns that repeat across generations. With this awareness, the person can begin to challenge these patterns and integrate new ways of expressing their authenticity. To apply the Hermetic laws, especially the law of correspondence and the law of unity, start by practicing self-observation and reflection. Some suggestions include reflective writing. Dedicate a few minutes each day to jotting down your experiences, challenges, and patterns you notice within yourself. Ask, how does this external situation reflect something within me? What deep feelings or beliefs are influencing my behaviors? Meditation and visualization. Meditate on the interconnection between yourself and the universe. Visualize yourself as part of a greater web of human experiences, recognizing how your personal healing contributes to the collective well-being. Dream analysis. Our dreams often reveal aspects of the collective unconscious that may be influencing our patterns. Keeping a dream journal can bring archetypes and themes to light, helping us understand and transform repetitive patterns. By practicing these techniques, we begin to experience the Hermetic laws in action. Gradually, we see how our internal world affects our reality and how, by shifting our perspective and integrating parts of ourselves, the outer world begins to respond differently. Want to learn how to apply the Hermetic laws and Jungian concepts in your life? In the ebook Alchemy and Archetypes, Exploring Inner Transformation Through Jungian Psychology, you'll find a practical approach to deciphering internal patterns and achieving a more balanced, connected life. The individuation journey challenges us to integrate all parts of ourselves, from the aspects we already know and accept to those we avoid facing, our weaknesses, fears, and less favorable traits. This process can seem difficult and often painful, as it forces us to confront parts of our psyche we'd rather ignore. But it is precisely this integration that allows us to live authentically, connected with the deepest parts of ourselves and the universe. Many of us carry an inner shadow, personality aspects we repress and that, when denied, end up unconsciously influencing our behaviors and decisions. This work of looking at the shadow is one of the most important steps in individuation. Although it may be uncomfortable, by acknowledging our shadow, we regain a vitality and freedom once lost in the effort to hide or deny parts of who we are. This process is not about perfection. It's about accepting that to be human involves both light and darkness. The ongoing practice of welcoming our repressed aspects with compassion allows us to transform this darkness into a source of wisdom and strength. And by integrating, we strengthen our connection to the collective unconscious and the unity that permeates all existence. To individuate is to understand that our greatest challenges, those that trigger intense emotions like fear, insecurity, and even shame, are invitations to become more complete. The shadow holds parts of us that may seem frightening, but it also contains unexplored talents and strengths. When we accept this journey, we walk with greater confidence and security, knowing that nothing within us needs to be hidden. Integrating knowledge of the collective unconscious and Hermetic laws into our daily lives is an act of courage and self-love. These practices are often simple but require consistency and, above all, a sincere willingness to look inward. This dedication to self-knowledge and self-observation allows us to see and transform patterns that previously caused us pain and held us back from growth. Recognizing and accepting our repetitive patterns can be challenging, but this practice brings clarity and self-compassion. By tracking meaningful coincidences in our lives, we become more aware of the messages the collective unconscious sends us. This practice helps us see cycles, and over time, we may begin to notice how our lives align with our internal state. It's a gradual process, but each small step is an achievement toward a more conscious and connected life. When we practice meditations on unity and visualizations of integration, we face the reality that our minds often try to protect us from parts of ourselves we deem wrong or ugly. But with time, these practices show us that these parts can not only be accepted but valued. Creating a safe space within ourselves, where our psyche feels whole, is one of the most profound forms of healing. Our dreams are a bridge to the deepest parts of the psyche, and exploring them with care and curiosity allows us to access wisdom beyond our conscious mind. Understanding and integrating archetypes is more than an intellectual practice. It's an emotional journey that requires patience and compassion. By identifying these archetypes, we connect with humanity within ourselves and others. Seeking meaning amid pain and the feeling of emptiness is a courageous and profoundly human path. As we explore the collective unconscious and Hermetic laws, we are reminded that our life experience, with all its complexities and challenges, is part of something larger and full of meaning. These teachings show us that, even when we feel alone, we are always in dialogue with the universe and connected to the whole. With each step on this journey, we come to see that difficult moments, doubts, and even pains are essential pieces in becoming who we truly are. This process brings us the understanding that the answers we seek are not out there, but within us, in the moment we accept and embrace all that we are. Emptiness becomes belonging, disconnection becomes unity, and the search becomes purpose. By facing this journey with gentleness and persistence, you not only transform yourself but also contribute to the healing and growth of everyone around you. May this path lead you to a life of peace, authenticity, and a deep connection with the whole. If you wish to dive even deeper into these practices and find new methods for self-exploration, I recommend the ebook Alchemy and Archetypes, Exploring Inner Transformation Through Jungian Psychology. Inside, you'll find tools that integrate Jungian knowledge and practical exercises for your personal journey of self-discovery and individuation. Enjoyed this content? Subscribe to the channel and stay with me for the next video.